I'm here today back at ITV to do an interview with Tony Morris. Now Tony presents the Granada Reports alongside Lucy Meacock. He's been in the industry now for well over 20 years. So we're going to get inside, we're going to have a good chat to Tony today, and we've got a group of young people with us today also to get some tips and advice off Tony about the media. Tony, thanks for joining us today. Now, you started with BBC Radio, didn't you, over 20 years ago? Just talk to us about your career choices. Was that always the career that you intended to do?
No. When I left school, I was in the Royal Air Force for nearly 10 years. Then I was a DJ, and I sold insurance, and I worked in petrol stations, and I worked in ceramics factories, and I worked on markets. So no, not really. I just fell into journalism. I just kind of fell into it, really. I applied for a job on a local newspaper as a trainee reporter, got a job on that paper, and then after a little while I thought maybe I should try broadcast journalism, and that's how it kind of went, really. So no, this wasn't really a goal or a game plan. I just fell into this, really. Okay,
and you've been here now with Granada, haven't you, for almost 10 years. What do you enjoy most about the job?
The variation and meeting people, and you get to do some great stuff. You get to interview celebs sometimes, or sports stars, or just ordinary people about weird things that have gone on in their life, sad things that have gone on in their life, unusual things that have gone on. Day to day, it's entertaining. There's quite a buzz in doing live TV every day. It can be quite nerve-wracking, but generally you get used to it. And also, I'm unbelievably rich. No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's a joke. No.
So any memorable stories that sort of stick with you that you've actually covered over the years?
Difficult to say. I went to Cambodia a few years ago, and we were doing stories about people clearing mines, which was really sad because there were people who were living next to minefields because there'd been this terrible civil war. And so we went over to Cambodia to cover it because there was a guy from the northwest of England who was involved in helping with mine clearance. So that was quite moving. I went and covered Manchester United in the Champions League twice. We did them when they were in Moscow and also when they were in Rome, which was a fantastic experience. Live outside broadcast stuff is good fun as well. We covered Blackpool's promotion to the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. We did the whole show on that, which was amazing. We were on Blackpool seafront, and the whole seafront was orange. It was brilliant. So yeah, lots and lots of stories. Lots of very sad stories with people who've had terrible things happen. But yeah, lots of things. Yeah, amazing. Lots of stories, really.
Great stuff. So any advice that you would give to young people now wanting to either go into the media or, even wanting to go into the RAF?
Go for it, I say. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but it is true. And I've had one story which probably illustrates that, which was when I worked on local radio hundreds of years ago, when I was a bit younger, the lady who was supposed to read the news on the television, her car broke down. She was doing our regional local ops, so she was only on for about 4 or 5 minutes on air into the big national news. Her car broke down, and I was in the office doing something else for radio, and somebody came over and said, "Oh, can you read the news for us, Tony, because there's nobody else." And I went, "Okay." And before I thought about it, I said, "Okay." And I think it wasn't great. I was all right. I did the job. I put a tie on, and I sort of stood in front of the camera, and I went, "Hello," and I wasn't very good, but I got a little bit better. But what I'm saying is if I'd have said no, then some other bugger would have done it. And I think, and I may never have even thought about doing telly ever again, but that kind of gave me the idea. So what I'm saying is that if somebody says to you, "Can you do this?" I think nearly always, if you can, just say yes and then work out how you're going to do it afterwards.
Of course. So you wouldn't actually say there's any sort of specific talents that young people have to have?
Well, if you're talking about getting into the media, then there are so many different jobs in the media. It depends what you want to go for. If you're talking about doing journalism, like I do, then yes, you need to maybe go to one of the various universities. You need to, your communication skills need to be good, and you need to have. You don't need to have a degree, but you need to have some. You need to be able to write at least relatively well. But I think a lot of the time in life, just confidence helps, and being a self-starter. If you show willing people in this industry, for example, come in on a Saturday. They don't get paid. People who are starting out, they come in on a Saturday week after week after week after week, and eventually, and they'll come up with a story idea, and the boss will go, no, that's rubbish, and you go, okay. And then the next week they come in on the Saturday again, and they come up with a story idea, and the boss goes, well, that's all right, yeah, we'll do that story. And if you're a self-starter, and if you're confident, and if you have belief, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, whether you think you're going to be a joiner, whether you think you're going to be a DJ, whether you think you're going to do this job, if you have belief in your ability, if you have confidence, and you're prepared to take a few knocks, you can succeed.